Well, for more on our top stories, we're joined live from Washington by our special correspondent, Karl Bostic. Good morning, Karl. Good to see you. Now, Karl, in the wake of a chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, there's been a continued slide of President Biden's poll numbers. Where does his approval rating sit at the moment, and why does it matter?
Well, actually, it's more than just that chaotic withdrawal that you're talking about from Afghanistan. Up until August, he was really, delivering on promises that his would be an administration of a competent government, that there would be global leadership, that the pandemic was under control, and that the economy was now resurgent. However, in August, you can see the wheels almost came off because what we saw happening was the Delta variant. We saw the possibility of new variants of the virus emerging. In fact, it could become the forever virus. We saw this, not only the chaotic withdrawal out of Afghanistan, but a horrific attack in which 13 soldiers were killed. And then finally, we saw an economic slowdown, the slowest increase of jobs added to the economy. This, just days away from 9/11, the 20th anniversary of the attack on the World Trade Center, the other two locations on 9/11. And in fact, the mood amongst many Americans is that it's had a negative effect on the country right now. So if anything, there's doubt about his leadership in this month, and there's pressure on him to deliver in September, especially when it comes to passing a reconciliation infrastructure bill worth $3 trillion. So he needs to show some early victories in September.
And Karl, I would just like to touch on life after this evacuation we are seeing by the West, because it will seem as if as the West deploys a wait-and-see approach, there's one country that is not waiting at all, and that's China. What are we likely to see here? Is this friends with benefits? They are opening diplomatic channels already. What are your thoughts?
This is regarding Afghanistan, you're saying?
China, the Taliban relationship with China.
Yes, well, what you have to keep in mind is this is all very, very strategic because, the border between China and Afghanistan is no more than about 25, 26 miles, but it's where that border is located. That border is located in the province that has a large Muslim population, and they're worried about that being a gateway for Muslim extremists to go back and forth across the border. So if anything, China wants to keep Afghanistan, the potential for extremists, they want to keep them at arm's length. In fact, the only countries with emissions still open in Kabul are China, Russia, Pakistan, for example, and that's it. So while they do yearn for international recognition and legitimacy, at the same time, it's most important to be in good terms with its neighbors. And that's beginning with China, Pakistan, Iran, and then further away, Russia.
And now the Taliban has announced the formation of a hardline interim government for Afghanistan. Well, we know that no women were selected for any acting cabinet positions in spite of the Taliban's promises of an inclusive government. Tell us more, Karl.
What's interesting is that they promised that it'd be much more inclusive government, but what we've seen, if anything, is a throwback to the battle days, the 1990s. In fact, the caretaker prime minister and the interior minister, they're both on international wanted list for terrorists. The head of the Interior Ministry, Haqqani, his group is a faction of the Taliban that's a designated terror group by both the U.S. and the UN. So there's a problem there about how inclusive that be. But what's even more alarming, more disturbing, there are no women at all in cabinet or ministerial type positions. And to give you an idea of just how repressive this could become, they've now outlawed or banned any protest in the street. No protests are allowed unless you get permission from the Ministry of Justice. And already we're seeing evidence of protesters being dragged to jail and journalists who are trying to cover the protests also being arrested because they're saying that if you're a journalist covering a protest that has not been approved, you are complicit with that protest. So journalists are also being arrested as well. So this is putting a chill, not only in terms of women's rights or the rights of free speech, but also for journalism as well.
And Karl, let's switch gears now. There's this new Texas anti-abortion law, and it's coming up just recently. Mexico ruled that it's unconstitutional to punish abortion as a crime. Now, could the safest way for Texan women to have safe access to abortions be to move over to Mexico?
Well, I tell you what's really, really alarming and disturbing to many, people in the U.S., especially liberals and progressives, is that until now, it was always established at the bare minimum for which you could maybe ban an abortion if it's after 22 weeks or 24 weeks. That's when, the fetus could actually perhaps still be alive outside the womb. But here they're saying 6 weeks. If there's an abortion at the 6 week threshold, you could be liable for prosecution. And what they've done is they've empowered citizens to, quite frankly, to sue a woman, or whoever helps a woman out and get an abortion, that they can be sued. In other words, if it's a taxi driver who takes a woman to get an abortion, he or she could be sued, and the state of Texas is guaranteeing them, if they do sue, they'll get $10,000 plus legal costs. And what you're also referring to is this. This is not going to take away from the fact that if a woman wants to get an abortion, she will. And whether it's going to Mexico or, now you have contraceptives, and you also have access to abortion medicines or pills online. But at the same time, though, this is now giving heart or inspiration to other state legislatures. For example, Mississippi and Florida are now looking at ways in which they can, enforce these more draconian measures. Again, what you have to keep in mind is this. What they're saying is that we can now allow women, to be prevented from having abortion even at 6 weeks, because that's the threshold. The problem is many women may not even know that they're pregnant by 6 weeks, but they're saying that a heartbeat could still be detected. And that's what's so chilling about this. And many people in the U.S. are really linking this to an overall conservative agenda that also includes voter suppression rights in other states as well.
Quite striking, Karl. I mean, this lacks exception for rape and incest, but how do you think the Biden administration, the White House, is likely to proceed on this matter?
Well, they're going to have to be very creative about this. We may see a lawsuit coming out of the Justice Department as early as today on Thursday. There's pressure on them to sue Texas for violating the constitutional rights of women. And that's what the Roe versus Wade decision is all about, that a woman has a federally protected constitutional right to choose what to do with her body. And that includes having an abortion. And, progressives and liberals are saying that this constitutional right is being violated by Texas. So that's the real challenge right there, because if they were to try to pass a law in Congress, there may not be enough votes to pass that law. You need 60 in the Senate, and there's only 50 Democrats in the Senate. They would need 10 Republicans. And then if it was passed, it would have to go to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court now has a hardline conservative majority of 5-4. That's why the Supreme Court upheld what Texas just passed. And what the Supreme Court reflects, it reflects the justices that former President Trump nominated, all far-right conservative justices who were anti-abortion. So what we're seeing playing out right now is really the legacy, or the beginning of the legacy, of former President Trump, when he filled the court with 3 conservative justices. In fact, some liberals saying the size of the Supreme Court should now be increased from more than 9 justices to perhaps 11 or even 15 justices to right this wrong.
Well, thank you so much, Karl Bostic, for joining us on Daybreak today.